That's fine. So when I first started teaching this course, I had never heard or seen any of these different types of voting we're going to look into. And I thought, like all of you said, when the hell is this ever going to affect me in the real world? Well, in the last few years, several, well, I guess not several that I'm aware of yet. But when I first started doing this, Louisiana used preference voting for, I think, state offices. And a couple years ago, New York started using preference voting for state offices. And then just this past year, 2022, Alaska started using preference voting for their senators, their state senators to go to DC. One of the issues I think that they had was too many people did not realize how it worked. It's an interesting idea, and it's an interesting method. So let's look at, we're going to learn several different methods of preference voting, some more pertinent than others. So first we need to figure out what this is. So we have something called preference scheduling. Preference ballot is a ballot in which the voter ranks the choices in order of preference. So you don't just, like we do in presidential elections, pick one person. You say, okay, I want this candidate first. This one is my second choice. This one's my third choice. This one's my fourth choice, and so on. So our first example, we have a vacation club is trying to decide which destination to visit this year, Hawaii, Orlando, or Anaheim. Their votes are shown below. So here we have them listed by name. However, especially when you get into more wide scale ballots, you're going to want to break it down into how they voted. So you look for, okay, Bob here voted AOH. And he's the only one. Then Ann voted AHO. So did Eve. And so did Jim. So now we have three people with that. And we combine it together so that it's easy to deal with. So we notice that totaling the vote counts across the top here, we get 10, which is how many people we voted. So we accounted for everybody. So the first method we'll learn is pretty much what we're doing, what we're used to anyways, although we don't necessarily list preference, we just list our favorite, called the plurality method. And you may have heard candidates referred to as not having a majority, but having a plurality. That means they receive more votes than anybody else. So in the plurality method, the choice with the most first place or first preference votes is declared the winner. Ties are possible and have to be settled through some sort of runoff. And we've seen that in current elections. So referring back to our original election, for the plurality method, we only care about the first place choices. Totaling them up. We have Anaheim here and here. So Anaheim has 4 first place votes. Then we have Orlando here. Orlando has 3 first place votes. And then we have Hawaii here. And Hawaii has a total of 3 first place votes. So for plurality method, Anaheim would win. But of the 10 ballots, only 4 of them preferred it. So it's not a majority preferring it most, but it just works out to where more people prefer it than any of the others. So let's look at another one here. We have 3 candidates running in an election for county executive. We have Goings, McCarthy, and Bunny. The voting schedule is shown below. Which candidate wins under plurality method? So we have Goings, McCarthy, and Bunny. So first thing we need to do is see how many people voted. Well, actually, we don't need that for this, because we're not looking for a majority. We're just looking for who has the most first place votes. So we look at Goings here, here, and here. So 44 plus 14 plus 20, which is what, 78? Then we look at McCarthy here and here. 70 plus 22, which is 92. And then we look at Bunny here. And we have 80 plus 39, which is 119. So who wins? Bunny, B. Everybody understand that? I'm gonna warn you ahead of time. You will see these problems again and again and again. So be sure you understand them. So plurality sounds great. It's what we use more or less. We don't rank our choices, but we pick who we want first. And whoever has the most choices wins. Now, the election from example 2 may seem totally clean, but there is a problem lurking that arises whenever there are 3 or more choices. Looking back at our preference table, how would our members vote if they only had 2 choices? Say Anaheim versus Orlando. 7 out of 10 of them would prefer Anaheim. I think we have this down here. Yeah. So if we didn't have Hawaii, Anaheim, Anaheim, and Anaheim, so 7 out of 10 would prefer Anaheim over Orlando. However, Anaheim versus Hawaii, 6 out of 10 would prefer Hawaii over Anaheim. We had Anaheim just won the election, yet 6 out of 10 voters, or 60% of them, would have preferred Hawaii. Hardly seems fair, right? Marquis de Condorcet, who was a French philosopher and a mathematician back then, every mathematician was a philosopher, and a political scientist, read about how this could happen in 1785, and for him we name our first fairness criteria. So the fairness criteria are statements that seem like they should be true in a fair election. So if there is a choice that is preferred in every 1-to-1 comparison with the other choices, that choice should be the winner. We call this the Condorcet winner, or the Condorcet candidate. So again, another way to look at this. So we'll go back to our original ballot here, our original preference schedule. So now what we're going to do is head-to-head. How many people prefer Anaheim over Orlando? How many people prefer Anaheim over Hawaii? And how many people prefer Orlando over Hawaii? Each candidate against each other. Which do they prefer in a head-to-head basis? So looking at Anaheim versus Orlando, we have these. Actually, let's do this way. These, that's Orlando, and that's Anaheim. So we have 7 versus 3. So in that head-to-head, Anaheim wins. Okay? Makes sense. So now let's look at Anaheim versus Hawaii. Well, Anaheim and Anaheim. So that's 4. Hawaii, though, has these two. All right, Hawaii over Anaheim, Hawaii over Anaheim. So 4 versus 6. So who wins that one? Hawaii. So that means that Anaheim cannot be a Condorcet winner because it was not favored over both Orlando and Hawaii. So let's look at Orlando versus Hawaii. Well, there's these here, not there, and these here. Hawaii over Orlando, Hawaii over Orlando. So it's 4, 6. So who wins here? Hawaii again. So Hawaii is the Condorcet winner. That makes sense? Hawaii was preferred over Anaheim in head-to-head. Hawaii was preferred over Orlando in head-to-head, and I'd prefer to go Hawaii myself. Here's the interesting thing, though. Same votes. Hawaii won. Who won the plurality? Anaheim. So same numbers, same situation, same everything, and just the way we look at it, the way we determine the winner can change the winner. Any questions so far? So here's another example we're looking at. Consider a city council election in a district that is historically 60% Democratic voters and 40% Republican voters. Even though city council is technically a nonpartisan office, people generally know the affiliations of the candidates. In this election, there are 3 candidates, Don and Key, both Democrats, and L, a Republican. A preference schedule for the vote looks as follows. Okay, so we have our preference schedule. So we can see a total of 854 voters participated in this election. Computing the percentage of first place votes, we see Don has 25.1, Key has 34.9%, and L has 40%. So in this election, Democratic voters split their vote over the 2 Democratic candidates, allowing the Republican candidate L to win under the plurality method with 40% of the vote. Looking at this closer, we see that it violates the Condorcet criterion, analyzing the 1-to-1 comparisons. Don is preferred to L, Key is preferred to L, and Don is preferred to Key. So even though Don had the smallest number of first place votes, he is the Condorcet winner, being preferred in every 1-to-1 comparison with the other candidates. That doesn't seem right either, does it? Yeah, there we go. So even though Don, okay, no, we did that. Huh. So another issue we have is something called insincere voting. When a person casts a ballot counter to their actual preference for strategic purposes. In the previous example, the Democratic leadership might realize that Don and Key will split the vote and encourage voters to vote for Key by officially endorsing him. Not wanting to see their party lose the election, as happened in this original scenario, Don supporters might insincerely vote for Key, effectively voting against L. And we've seen this recently as well. I'm not necessarily voting for this guy, I'm voting against the other guy. So consider our election from example 3, and is there a Condorcet winner? So what do I need? I need G versus M, G versus B, and M versus B. So looking at G versus M, G is preferred here, here, and here, and nowhere else. So that's 78, and the rest go to M. So what? 92, 172, and we don't count this one because nobody is preferred here of those two. So what is that? 172. So M is preferred over G. Okay. Next, we look at G versus B. We see these same three here and this one. So there we're looking at 148, whereas B is good here, here, and here, which is 141. So G is preferred here. Okay. Well, we already know G can't be the Condorcet winner because G was not preferred over M. So now let's look at M versus B. So M is preferred here, 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 none of them here. So what's that, 136? And B is preferred here, here, and here. That 133. So M is preferred to B over B as well. So M is preferred over G, M is preferred over B. So that McCarthy is the winner. Any questions? Now here's what they used in Alaska. This can get time consuming. Instant runoff voting. In instant runoff voting, voting is done with preference ballots and a preference schedule is generated. The choice with the least first place votes is then eliminated from the election. Any votes for that candidate are redistributed to the voter's next choice. This continues until a choice has a majority of over 50%. So here we need to know how many people voted. 3, 7, 11, 17, 19, 20. So what is a majority of 20? 11. Essentially, you multiply it by 50%. If it comes out even, you move it one up. If it comes out as a decimal, you round up. So our majority would be 11. So we need somebody to have 11 first place votes. I think this does the math for it. Yeah. So looking at this, what do we have? A through E. So any first place votes for A? Looks like 0. B, 3, 7, 9. C, 4. D, 6. And E, 1. Does anybody have 11? And who has the least? A, so we drop A. Now A didn't have any first place votes, so it doesn't change anything. So if we drop all the A's, doesn't really affect anything. So we have the same totals. Does anybody have 11? No, they do not. So now the lowest vote getter was E. Essentially what this means is we erase all the E's. And here where E had a first place, this becomes D. Because that's the next one. So now D has 7 instead of 6. Still, nobody has a majority. C had the least amount. Get rid of the C's. And now this D is the top vote for this particular group. And that's 4. So we add that 4 to the 7. And now we have 11. So D wins. Yeah, I know. Here's the thing though. Typically in an election, nobody gets a majority of the votes. What this does is the person who wins is favored by the majority of the people at some point. So it's more, not necessarily fair because look, B got more votes than anybody else initially. So all these methods can be a little funky. The main thing to point out is once you get you have to know how you're determining a winner before you vote. And really what you need is to be able to understand how that particular system works. Because again, I think that was part of the issue in Alaska. A lot of those people didn't realize what they were supposed to do and only picked one candidate. So once your one candidate's eliminated, your vote basically is discarded. So let's go back to this. Who do we have winning? Had Bunny and we've had McCarthy win, right? So let's look at Goings, McCarthy, and Bunny. Goings is here. That was 78, right? McCarthy was here. That was 92. And then Bunny is these 119. Now we need to get our calculator out. So we have 44 plus 14 plus 20 plus 70 plus 70 plus 22 plus 80 plus 39. So we have a total of 289 votes. To find the majority, we divide that by 2. Okay, that didn't work. 289 divided by 2 equals, we got 144.5, which rounds up to 145 for a majority. Nobody has 145. Who has the lowest amount of votes? That would be Goings here. So now I take that out and it becomes M. I take this out and it becomes B. I take this out and these 20 people are disenfranchised at this point because they didn't vote for anybody else but Goings. So essentially, we're adding 44 to M and we're adding 14 to B. And I get 136 and 133. However, my new vote tally is 269. As I drop these 20, dividing that by 2, it gets to be 134.5, so I need 135. McCarthy wins. So we've had Bunny and McCarthy both win with this voting schedule, depending on how we determine the winner. So what's wrong with this? I think we've already seen that. Let's return to our city council election. This election, Don has the smallest number of first place votes, so Don is eliminated in the first round. The 214 people who voted for Don have their votes transferred to the second choice, Key. So Key is the winner under IRV. We can notice that in this election, IRV violates the Condorcet criterion, since we determined earlier that Don was the Condorcet winner. On the other hand, a temptation has been removed for Don supporters to vote for Key. They now know their vote will be transferred to Key, not simply discarded. So again, I think what happened in Alaska was they voted for the preferred person, and that was it on a lot of them, and that changed it. So let's look at this voting system here. We have Adams, Brown, and Carter. In this election, Carter would be eliminated in the first round with only 20 first place votes. Adams would be the winner with 66 votes to 34 for Brown. Okay. Now suppose that the results were announced, but election officials accidentally destroyed the ballots before they could be certified. Now suppose that the results were announced. We said that already, didn't we? And the votes had to be recast. Now, the temptation is, hey, I want to vote for the winner. So why don't they jump on the bandwagon? 10 of the voters who had originally voted in the order Brown, Adams, and Carter changed their vote to favor the presumed winner, changing their votes to Adams, Brown, and Carter. So in the revote, Brown will be eliminated in the first round, having the fewest first place votes. After transferring votes, we find that Carter will win this election with 51 votes to Adams' 49 votes. Even though the only vote changes made favored Adams, the change ended up costing Adams the election. Doesn't seem right. That is bizarre, isn't it? You win, and then 10 people that didn't vote for you vote for you, and then you lose. Really bizarre stuff. Again, that's why you have to know how the votes are determined, how the winner is determined in advance, because it's easy to change it. That brings us to our next one, the mononicity criterion, that states if voters change their votes to increase the preference for a candidate, it should not harm that candidate's chances of winning. So we have a problem. Well, not a problem. I'm sure you guys will be happy to hear this. We are actually a week ahead of schedule. We're supposed to be doing problem solving this week. So instead of powering through on this, I'm going to pick this as a stopping point. So Thursday, we'll pick up at board account. Some of these methods coming up are quite time consuming as well. Okay. here. See Wesley, no Caleb, no, Abby, got Jack, got Serena. Okay. So that's the online piece. I can go ahead and stop the recording.